record, Jess? Oh, you already did it.
I can
Okay.
figure it out. All right. So let's just get right into it. And Megan, I think I made your co-host, so if you see anybody join, I think you should be able to let them in. Can everybody see the share?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Julie. All right. So just as an overview about what we'll talk about, just quickly covering the admin side versus the volunteer side. We'll do a quick run through on the volunteer side, even though I know most of you have at this point already figured out how to sign up for shifts, just in case there's anybody else who needs to watch this and figure that out too. Um, the summary of how to view, remove, and add volunteer signups, how to email folks, and how to log hours. And all of that is also covered in the written manual that I sent out. So if that's easier to review, feel free to look at that. And since this will be recorded, you can also rewatch this at any point afterwards, or, let me know if you have questions afterward. So one of the differences between this site and Volunteer Up is that they have a lot of different links to sign in with. In this case, the admin link is this app.betterimpact.com/login/admin. That is what you will use to sign into the admin side. You can't get there, even if you are an admin, through the volunteer side, which is something that I've sent them emails about at this point. But in this case, I'm going to use the test supervisor account that I have set up, and we can log in here. This is what the initial admin side looks like. You can customize that at any time with this little yellow bar tells you to change your customization preferences. So you can move the things that are on this page around if you think something's more useful. All of that's customizable on an individual level within your account. If you want to sign up for shifts still, that will require going back to the volunteer side, but you can do that straight from here by clicking My Profile and clicking Switch to Volunteer View. If we do that, it takes us back to the same site you are already probably somewhat familiar with the same sort of sign up capabilities, the same sort of scheduling, and all of that as you've already seen. To run through that quickly, you can sign up for things via the calendar by clicking into shifts and clicking sign up on a specific one. You can also sign up for things in the list view. This one sorts automatically by site. So for example, I wanted to sign up for all the available crew leader shifts. I could click into crew leader, select all, and sign up for all of them. Or you can filter at the top by things like day of the week. So if I wanted to look for all Tuesdays, I could filter and again select all to sign up for every single Tuesday if that was something I wanted to do. Once you sign up for something, I'll do one as a test here. If I sign up for Tuesday, January 2nd or 20th, that'll automatically show up as confirmed here, and then it will show up in my schedule. So test supervisor is now signed up as a Birch Street crew leader on the 20th, and I can at any time add it to my own calendar here if I wanted to add it to my Google Calendar, and I can also remove it from this menu. It'll ask to confirm, and you say confirm, and now it's gone. At any time, you can also sync your calendar to your signups by updating your calendar subscription under My Profile contact information. You can sign up to weekly reminders, and the weekly reminder will just send you an email at the beginning of every week that lets you know what all you've signed up for in the subsequent week. And like Volunteer Up, it kind of follows more. This is, I would say, a more standard industry practice of opting into emails rather than opting out of emails. So you do have to opt into things like reminders for this site. Uh, and under the calendar section, you can also sync it to your calendar so that it will automatically sync any shifts you sign up for and any shifts that you cancel to your virtual calendar of choice, whether that's Google, Apple, Outlook, any of those. To switch back to the admin side, you can click this Switch to Admin View button, which you'll see is here once you sign in via the admin side. And now we're back to this admin side view. To check which volunteers you're going to be seeing on site. That's under this assign menu. The site supervisors have a somewhat pared back version of the site. There are more capabilities, and as time goes on, we might think that maybe people need access to things that we weren't considering originally, and we might change what's viewable to supervisors in the future versus what's viewable now. But this current account, this test account, is able to see anything that the site supervisors can see. So if you go under the assign menu, you'll notice that this sidebar menu changes every time you click one of these buttons at the top. So in assign, you can, similarly to the volunteer view, look at a list or look at a calendar to see to see the upcoming shifts. So we're going to start with calendar. And in calendar, you can similarly filter at the top by what site. So if I wanted to look only at Birch Street, for example. You can also filter by activity type. So if you want to see if there's homebuyers signed up for the next month or supervisors signed up for the next month, you can see that here. If you click filter, you'll notice that the schedule down here changed somewhat to eliminate all the West Hampton Road and new volunteer orientations. If we now want to double check who's signed up for, say, the 20th, we can click on the day and they'll appear here. One thing you can ignore is these sort of yellow and green things listed in the legend. The red means that there are open slots. The blue means that there are people signed up. So if you see a day that's all red, not a lot of signups. If you see the day it's all blue, everything's full. We're not using these middle stages, so you can ignore that in the legend, and you will not see these green or yellow squares in the calendar. But for Tuesday the 20th, we can see that there are openings for a couple different shifts that haven't been filled yet, as well as a couple shifts that have been already filled. To see everybody who has signed up, you can click this Show All Volunteers button, or because we're already on a day, you can click this plus button next to the day title, and it'll show you everybody who signed up for Tuesday. If you want to email all of them, for example, you can click the Select All Volunteers and click Send Email at the bottom. You can also email, for example, only the morning people by selecting all within the morning category. And you'll notice that then it's not selecting people who aren't in the morning category. And you can email them from near here as well. And you can do the same thing from the list view. It's basically just personal preference. The functionality is more or less the same. On the list view, you can filter by days of the week. So if you want to just look at every Tuesday, you can filter for every Tuesday. Same here with category. You can filter by site. You can filter for orientation. So if I again want to look at Birch Street, it again gives me the options of types of Birch Street shifts. If you want to look at something that's happened in the past, you can just edit the start date here to be earlier, or similarly, edit the end date to be something farther away. We can filter and say, all right, here's our Tuesday, January 20th again. Same functionality as before. Click next to the day name to see everybody. Click next to a shift name to see just that shift. And similarly, you can, send an email to everybody in this list from this option. You can also remove volunteer signups or add volunteer signups from either the list or the calendar. Say we're adding crew leaders. You can, if you hover over this, I think it's called the hamburger menu, but the three lines menu to the left of the shift name, you can say assign, and it'll bring up this little report thing, which is useful depending on what you want to look at, but in most cases, you'll probably just be looking for a specific person, so you can just put their name in. So we're going to look for my test supervisor account and search. And there's test supervisor. And you can assign test supervisor to this crew leader shift by clicking assign. Now they're gone. It will not pull up names of people who are already signed up for something in that slot. So you can't sign people up for conflicting options, I believe. Except in the case of hospitality, where I think you can sign people up for hospitality as well as additional construction shifts. One other thing to note about the assign menu is that you can assign over the capacity. So if the capacity for the day is, say, 6 volunteers for regular construction volunteers. But a seventh person who you know signs up and you say, yeah, we could use a seventh set of hands. Feel free to volunteer. When you go into this assign menu, you can add people over that capacity limit. It won't stop you. Um, in this case, test supervisor isn't real, so we do want to remove them. And there you would simply hover over again the menu to the left of their name and click remove. You can also send a specific person an email through this menu as well by clicking the send email. Let's remove them. It'll ask you to confirm, and you can say remove. The other way we already sort of covered how to email volunteers, but one other thing that might be useful is back on the home screen. There are these pinned searches to the left or to the right here on the home screen. There's volunteers tomorrow at Birch Street and there's volunteers tomorrow at West Hampton Road. So since West Hampton Road actually has volunteers tomorrow, we can look at that. And you see this little envelope icon indicates that it's an email search. So if you click volunteers tomorrow, it automatically pulls up a search for the people who are volunteering tomorrow at West Hampton Road. And you can format an email here. Sending an email and the other things looks the same. This send email box just shows up as a pop-up. But you can select a template. So say we're canceling tomorrow. There's a volunteer day cancellation template, which shows up and it says, sorry, we're canceling tomorrow. It autofills a subject and a body, but you can also just edit it yourself in any degree you want or type your own email from scratch. Um, please make it slightly nicer than we are canceling, period. Uh, at the bottom of these email options, you can ask it to send you a copy. You can also ask it to send you a list of recipients. So at the bottom of your email and only your email, it will list all of these people at the top who are getting this email. If you want to send it out, but you're like, I already know that I'm supervising and I don't want to send it to me, you can unselect yourself from this list. You can also send yourself a test email. So if you're not sure about formatting or just want to make sure it all looks good, you can send a test and then you can send the email out. It will automatically BCC everybody who's in the recipient list, so they won't see each other's emails. They also won't see your email. It'll come from the system. But if they reply to the email, it'll go directly to your personal inbox, not to the system. All right. And last, we're going to look at logging volunteer hours. That is under the people menu. Volunteer hours, similarly to volunteer up, are just kind of default amounted. So if we know that a construction shift is 7 hours long, it will default to giving anyone who's signed up for a construction shift 7 hours. So all you would have to do for a day where everyone shows up and works the correct amount of time or the full amount of time is to go to the people menu and approve hours. You can filter this in the similar way that we can filter anything else. You can look by dates, you can look by categories, but it will automatically default to showing you all unconfirmed hours, with the most recent hours first. So if we were supervising West Hampton Road Cottage yesterday, you could click all of the West Hampton Road Cottage people and at the bottom say approve. If the day was canceled and they didn't get removed, you could say delete. Um, we'll do an example with this older test entry. You can also edit the hours of any individual person by selecting, again, this little side menu next to that particular shift. So say this test entry on December 9th didn't work all 7 hours, they just did 5. You can change it to say 5, it'll update, and it'll give you this option to approve the entry on save, so you don't have to then go back and select it and approve it again. Um, you can also uncheck that if you'd rather do it in bulk. But because that's not real, we're going to cancel. And if we wanted to delete it, because that is, again, a test entry and not real, you can click this reject delete button and it'll say, are you sure? And you say yes. And then it goes away from this approval menu. I think that covers all the things I wanted to get through really fast. So open for questions now. Anthony, I see a hand emoji.
Yes. Those pinned searches in that box on the main page,
Yes.
are those restricted to things that you create?
You can actually, I think, make yourself one. These, since they're email searches, if you're going into an email and you want to send an email, it'll give you an option in this email menu to make your own search. So similarly here, you can load an existing saved search. So there's volunteers today for those days or volunteers tomorrow. You can
But
also manage the existing saved searches. Uh, by deleting or unpinning them. Please don't delete them, unless you make one by mistake. Uh, but
I
in
was
this case,
thinking,
you can filter by anything. You can add search criteria to a search. You can search for any number of volunteers here. And then once you load the search, you can click this save button to save a new search, and it'll be available to other people as well.
okay, so if we, obviously today, we don't have a session at Birch tomorrow, but if we wanted to have a report for next week,
Hmm.
you create it and it would be pinned in that search in that box.
Yes. Yeah. I think the easiest way to look for specific days would be to go back to that assign in calendar or assign in list view. But certainly if you wanted to email everyone at Birch Street next week to say, hey, we don't have enough work, we're canceling all 3 days, for example, you could make a new search that looks for people who signed up next week. I'm also, if you think that would be useful, happy to make it myself and add it here so that's available.
Um, yeah, because I sometimes wear the hospitality hat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, from that point of view. Um, the other question I had was, are you planning today to go over the phone app or not?
The phone app only looks at the volunteer side. It doesn't have admin capabilities, but
Okay,
it's
that was going to
base
be my question anyway, so that's
yeah.
okay.
It's basically just the same as the mobile site. So there's a mobile site login. And if you go to the mobile site in like your phone's browser, it's basically identical to the app. There's not really a lot of difference there.
Okay, that's a little bit of a shame, but I understand.
Yeah.
Probably.
You
The
can
question,
log into
Judge.
the admin on your phone. It does work. It just is a little bit harder to use, I would say, than on a computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this is Walt. So there's a lot to get used to here.
Yes.
I've played with it a little bit, but I don't feel very comfortable. I find it taking me much longer than the old application, but maybe that'll change. Uh, One thing I tried to do is uh, typically when I want to assign hours, I don't want to just assume that we did a full day of work.
Hmm.
And so you got to go through there, you go back and update the hours. And I sort of figured out how to do that one
Hmm.
by one. What I Sometimes a volunteer will show up that is not signed in.
Hmm.
So based on what you just showed me, it looks like I'd have to go back and create and add them, and then go and update their out and then put their hours in. I can't just do that from one screen.
Yeah, I believe it does just show up because this is sort of the approval and the editing side. So yeah, if they're not entered first time, they're not going to show up in the approval section. You can just log hours instead of approve hours. So if someone shows up who didn't sign up, but you want to add them here, you could search for them here. Let's
Where is
see.
that?
This is in the same under people where you would go to approve hours. Slightly above it, you can log hours for people instead.
Well, okay. So go through an ex example for a
Yeah, so
particular day. I
let's
don't quite understand.
okay,
So
so let's
you're in the area where you're going to at where you normally would go back to approve hours. Is that right?
yeah. So I think the easier way to do this would be with we haven't given the supervisors the ability to look at the volunteer like all of the volunteer profiles. Um and that's I think would be the faster way to do this.
Yeah.
Um
How do I add a specific volunteer?
to a specific if you wanted to add a volunteer to a day, then
Yeah.
you would go back to the calendar or the list and say I wanted to add someone to this day. You could click here to assign a new person. So say you're signing up and you want to add you.
Yeah.
You'd look for you, click you, say assign.
Okay.
And then you'll appear under this shift that I was just editing, which is construction volunteers for tomorrow. Um, I could also, yeah, and in this case, you can also log hours from this menu. So if you'd approved the hours for everybody else, say you're supervising this day, everybody else got approved because they were already entered, but you wanted to just add someone and then approve their hours afterwards, you can just log their hours here.
Okay, I guess I'll have to go through this again. It's too much for me to take in here.
No
Uh,
worries.
And
yeah.
Jess, on this screen, can you assign someone to a shift that's in the past? You just double
That's
check that.
a great question. Let's look at yesterday. I
Because
think
that's
you
the
should,
scenario I think that Walt's
yeah, you
talking
should
about.
be able to. Let's look for
Well,
shift.
yeah, I was going to try to correct some in the past, but yeah. Um,
Yep,
Yeah. So if
it
you
works.
add, yeah, you can add someone. In this case, I'm looking at yesterday. So I added test supervisor to yesterday's crew leader list. And I can log the hours for test supervisor and say they actually only showed up for half the day. I'll give them 5 hours, and you can log it there. So you don't have to then go back to the approval menu once you've added them here.
I'm going to get the sense that it's putting quite a bit of load on the supervisors to update the hours. My guess is if a day is scheduled from 9 to 4, supervisors are going to go in and just say, "Oh well, it's so easier for me to just assume everybody's put in their 8 hours or whatever." My guess is we're going to get an overestimate of hours.
Would you guys prefer to that we ask? One of the things we considered was giving you fewer permissions so you didn't have to worry about approving hours and having you just send an email, like say to Deani at the end of your shift and says, these were all the people here and the hours, and then she approves them.
Mhm. We can also, there's also different ways we can set up the hours tracking. Like there's time clock functionality where the onus is instead on the individual volunteer to sign themselves in and out. But I think that would be more to ask than doing it another either this way or via the email way, like Megan's suggesting.
That's probably not going to happen reliably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And you
think
just
that would
can't,
Doesn't
be a
it,
big undercount.
I
yeah.
mean,
And you
I'll
can't
give
necessarily
this,
assume everyone will have cell service or phones.
I'll give this a try for the first time tomorrow, but my impression is that it's got to be easier than that kiosk.
The kiosk was
I mean,
also
that was
very
really time
glitchy, yes.
consuming.
I, and
Is there a way, Jess,
Mhm.
if I look at tomorrow, for example, can I easily figure out how many people are signed up?
If
I
you're
know there are the red
looking,
and blue bars in the calendar, but I mean, I
yeah,
have to go through and count them, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, the calendar will show you,
West Hampton Road.
yeah.
If you hover over it, it might show, if you go to the calendar view.
No, it says confirmed 3 out of 7, vacant 4 out of 7, but that's not numbers of bodies. That's numbers of
Hmm.
categories with at least one person.
Yeah, this will
I
tell
don't
you the
want,
category
no, that's not what
Yeah.
information.
I want.
Yeah, and looking into that doesn't necessarily, I wish it would give you just a total because it has these lovely columns that tell you all of the different categories of, oh, here's your confirmed volunteers is two,
But
4, and 1.
What do all those initials stand for, Jess?
These, some of these aren't super useful. This is the minimum number of volunteers that the shift is asking for. So in this case, West Hampton Roads crew leader, it's asking for 1. They currently have none, so it still has this little red exclamation point. This is the maximum number of volunteers, so 2 for crew leader currently. Um, these we're ignoring backup list, we're not using it. Signed up also ignoring and assigned. So you can ignore basically these 3 because we're not really using them because when there's other organizations that use this system that want to have volunteers sign up and then have someone else confirm them. And in this case, we're just assuming everyone who signs up is going. So they're jumping essentially straight to this CO, which is confirmed. So you can sort of see here, there's 1 person in supervisor, 4 people in volunteer, and 2 people in morning, which is still kind of counting, but a little quicker than counting names. I do wish they would give you just a total in each section rather
Which
than
column are you counting numbers in?
this CO confirmed column
Wow.
tells you that there's 1
That's,
person confirmed to be a supervisor, 4 people for construction volunteer, and 2 people
yeah,
for morning.
I think I'd rather just count I mean, that table is hard to read. I mean,
Yeah. Or yeah,
uh,
you could just
I,
expand all of them and say, all right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
and I guess just to, as I've mentioned in my email,
Hmm.
I like to play with these numbers depending on what task is coming up and,
Hmm.
whether I have crew leaders or not. Is that beyond our level of administrative, is that above our pay grade or administrative, permissions?
Currently it is. We didn't the activities section is, I would say, currently you can see the activities is what the permission is here, where you can see where all the scheduled days are in this section. On the higher admin side, it lets you change the numbers for specific days in here, but it's not, I would say that part is also a little more complicated than how volunteer apps was. So
Hmm.
we can certainly discuss making that an option. At this point, I think it would just be let us know if you want to add more people. Um, and
And so we can't, yeah, okay. So we can't change like day labels like we did in Volunteer Up or anything like that.
yeah, they don't have like a day, just the way they have it set up, they don't
Yep.
have a day label functionality in the same way.
And could we get is there any other information about volunteers in this system? Because Volunteer Up had that nice skills inventory and
Yes.
lots
Yeah.
of, there's a list of, preferred pronouns and all sorts of information that I
Mhm.
found useful that I
Mhm.
don't know how to get to now.
Yeah, currently that's also one of the things that we initially have turned off, but if we think that it would be beneficial for people to look at, we can certainly discuss adding that back in. The skills inventory got kind of unwieldy in Volunteer Up, so we didn't bring that functionality into this one. We instead simplified it to just what sort of volunteering areas are you interested in, because we found that was more useful on our end with, especially because all sorts of volunteers use the system. It's not just for construction. Um, so
But
there's
I find it very, very useful to know if somebody new signs up. Are they a
Mhm,
complete neophyte or have they done some general home repair or are they construction professional?
mhm,
Right? I don't need to know much in the way of detail, but I
yeah.
mean, even that much information would be helpful. Is there an option for creating
So Gary, why do you need that
form or
before, why
something?
do you need to know that before they show up and start to talk to them?
Because I want to sort of think about how to break people up into
Breaking them
groups,
up?
what we
Yeah.
might be able to accomplish.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can't always assess that right off the bat.
Well, you can't assess it from what they claim they have as skills either, but
Well,
yeah.
I think we can think about that long term, whether there's something we could add to the profiles that
Hmm.
people can sort of self-attest to their skill level or a badge they can earn or something like that.
Yeah.
But the reason we didn't give you permission to access everything was in part because we didn't want it to be too overwhelming when you log in to the admin side. So that's why I just keep saying, well, we could add that later if it becomes if it's a widespread need, you know.
it's not that
Um,
there's top secret information you're trying to keep hidden from us.
Not
no, I mean
necessarily.
it's generally good practice not to share contact information and things like birth dates and personal information with as few as number of people as possible. But we screening it to the you guys as specific leadership volunteers is what we did in the past.
Hmm.
So there really, some sense, there aren't guardrails on what you can actually do by mistake. Um, I mean, I guess it's sort of it's all open. Once you get in here, you're open to all these changes that you can make to, I could go back and correct something for Birch Street that I wasn't part of Birch Street by mistake, or um, I guess it's a very powerful system, but with power you also have a problem of too much power.
That is exactly why, Walt, we were limiting it a little bit. So,
Yeah,
um, we didn't want people accidentally deleting someone's profile or, whatever. But
right. So,
I
so
think,
a
go ahead.
particular example. So let's suppose someone has signed up but doesn't show up.
Hmm.
So so what I would do as the supervisor would just put them down to 0 hours. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Okay.
can do that, or you can take them off the schedule.
Oh, it's actually I can actually take them off the schedule. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. You
Um,
can mark them as 0 if you think it would be helpful to know that people aren't showing up, especially if it's perhaps a repeat person. Um, but you can also just take, like, if we wanted to, I don't know, take Gary off tomorrow, we can just remove him.
Please.
okay.
It's gonna be snowing.
Yeah, the
Uh,
weather's not looking great.
so back on one thing, I got feedback from volunteers and from the volunteers' approval. There's no way for them to know who else is showing up, right? They just see they can sign up and that's it.
Yes, which is generally, I think that's another one of the sort of industry best practices that Volunteer Up didn't follow, that maybe we got a little spoiled with. But yes, in the volunteer view, you can't necessarily see who else has signed up, just that there are people signed up.
Or they don't know who the supervisor is or anything like that, or
Yeah,
right.
yeah, no, names and none of that information is shared here.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Jess, can you go back and walk through a cancellation again?
How to remove somebody or how to cancel a shift.
How to cancel a shift? So if you don't want to just go delete it, we've got to go email everyone and tell them that there's no shift.
Yeah. So if, for example, we wanted to email everybody at Birch Street tomorrow, if you wanted to do specifically tomorrow, you can use the pin search here and it'll take you straight to the email. But let's say we want to cancel something next week because there's not enough work. We can go back to the calendar. We can look for Birch Street. And you can say, let's say we want to cancel next Tuesday. You can look at Tuesday, and then these are all the volunteers who will show up for Tuesday. If you click the plus, it'll give you everybody. Um, we can select all. Nope, not that select all. The other select all. And email everybody on this list. So in this case, everybody who's signed up for next Tuesday will show up on this email list. You can see their names here, but it won't, give you their emails or other information. There's a template for cancellation, but like I said, you can just enter your own subject and body of the email. You can send yourself a copy, you can send yourself a test, and you can just send that email to everybody else. So it'll go out through the system, it'll look like it's come from an official email at the system, but if someone replies to say, oh no, I was really looking forward to it, it'll go to your personal inbox. It will not come to Better Impact.
Can
And
I
that
add,
Jeff, you seem to be a wizard with this. How did you get so accustomed to this?
It's like
he's
been
young.
75% of my job for the last 2 months.
Yeah, come on, Jay. It's like
Is there,
you should be the one that's out there trying to get other people to use it at other places. I mean,
Hey Jess,
Mhm,
if someone wanted to send an email back and say it would go to your own email,
mhm.
is that an email address that you have through Better Impact, or is it the whatever your like your Gmail or something is?
It would be whatever it is you've signed up for your account with, so
Okay,
whatever's attached to your profile. So
cool.
since
Okay,
I'm be sending this through Test Supervisor, the profile, you can see that Test Supervisor has an address of 140 Pine Street and an email address of accounts at PV
okay,
Habitat.
yeah,
So anyone who replies to an email that Test Supervisor sends, that reply will go to accounts at PV Habitat.
okay.
so Jess, maybe this is a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. It would be a lot easier if I could just get the volunteers' email addresses and copy them and paste them into my own system and send the email that way, because then I know exactly what it's doing and who it's going to.
That's
Can
not
I,
a question.
I could get those and volunteer up, right? And
Yes. Yeah, again,
is there any
it
way
let
to,
you see a lot more personal information in Volunteer Up.
is there any way to get them here?
I think here the intent is that you aren't seeing that it is
Yeah.
just going to the names of people.
I mean, Gary, you'd still know exactly who you're sending to and what you're sending them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
know.
once you send it, actually, I think it does. Let me see if I can confirm in a
And you can
different
CC yourself or
window.
BCC yourself too.
Yeah, you can send yourself a copy so that you'll see everything that got sent. Let me see.
So, um, if a volunteer wanted to respond to that cancellation email,
Mhm.
it wouldn't go to the site supervisor, it would go to the accounts at PV Habitat.
No, it
Oh,
would go to the site. Currently, the account that I'm in is an account called Test
Oh,
Supervisor.
okay.
So if if I sent an email right now, it would reply to that accounts at PV Habitat because that's the one I use to set up Test Supervisor's account. But if, say, Gary sent an email, it would just go, any reply would go to Gary's inbox. It wouldn't go to Better Impact. Let me just double check because
And what's our mechanism? What's our agreed upon? So that's the notification, but then people could still be signing up. How do we remove the shift?
that is currently something that staff has the authority to do as far as zeroing out or deleting a shift itself. Um, so that would be something that if we wanted to expand that capability to others, we
So
would have
if
to
That could
edit
you
be
that.
that could be dangerous.
So
Yeah.
if I make that decision on a Friday afternoon and nobody's in the office,
you text me, Gary, and
okay.
I'll fix it. All right,
Yeah.
but I think the idea is I think what Deani, are you still on the call?
Yes.
I think Diani is going to be our primary person for, because she mans the volunteer at pvhabitat.org email as well. So if you have a cancellation or something and you want her to remove it from the calendar, let her know. Let her know. So if you send out an email cancellation, you should also make sure to maybe email the team or Dion, a staff person and say, or call and say, hey, can you take this down?
And I think I can add more email addresses in that. I think I saw that feature in that form, right? So I could tack on a few more people to get copies of the cancellation email. Yes?
You can,
ECC to contacts?
that's
oh,
like,
Is that what that
see,
is?
this is where I think that their email is a little silly because the contact list here is just staff. So if you wanted to also tell us
Oh, but
that you're
that's
canceling
exactly who we
something.
want at
Yeah.
BCC, actually. That's
So when
perfect.
you send this email out, if you can just make sure to BCC, Diani or a couple other people, that would be helpful. And in
Actually,
this
I
case,
think
you
that's
can see
perfect.
Diani's email address.
I think BCCing staff is a great idea, Gary. That should be the standard practice. Then you don't have to
yep.
send a separate email.
And then we'll just assume that that person's going to get it in time to put up a cancellation notice before anybody else jumps in. Probably would be
Yeah, I
better
mean,
with text.
if you want to CC multiple staff that like me, Diani, and Julie,
Yeah.
that would make sense. And then that way, if I see it and I'm like, oh, I know Diani's on vacation this week, I'll go do it. I'll go take care of this.
Mhm. And you can, in this case, either select multiple individuals or just click everybody and add us all to this list, and then it'll show up here.
Yeah, you could CC all of us would be fine. We'll talk to each other, but I think a lot of the times when you cancel a shift, there's some conversation happening at the build team or something already, you know, and
Usually.
so construction coordinators is likely to be in those meetings and we might some of this is changing habits, so it's okay, the construction coordinator needs to say in the meeting, oh, should I take that one off? Um, it doesn't hurt, you've got my phone number, you've got Julie's, you get Julie's replacements, like if it's I just canceled today because I threw my back out. No one's going to expect it. Can you
Mhm.
go remove the shift? I sent the email or something, I'd be, fine with that, and we'd figure out how to get it done.
Any complications if you put in college groups and other team builds? You just create a separate category and then they sign up as individuals. Is that the plan?
I think we're still ironing out some of how team builds will work. In this new system, there is an option for something called a group profile, where like if UMass all just wanted to sign up under a group header, they could do that, and that would sort of autofill the spots available. Um, but I think we're still ironing out the exact process for how that'll work.
So it's not going to matter if the people who actually show up aren't exactly the ones who signed up, as long as they have 8 bodies.
The big difference between having the individuals sign up is when you create your account is when you sign the liability waiver. So if we decide to do it as a group sign up with here's 8 college students, then they'd need to sign paper waivers when they show up in person.
Okay.
So but it might be better than having, these random 8 college students who aren't going to come back, have profiles and taking
Mhm.
up space. So that's not built out right now, but that's something we were talking about possibly adding as a way to have those construction team groups sign up as a group.
Mhm. And then
Um,
if those people individually did really have a nice time and want to come back separately without their group, they still have the ability to make their own profile and come back anytime.
would that be a pain if you knew you had a team build to have them sign paper waivers, or would that be all right?
I think that, I never quite know what to do when I've got certain people signed up for a UMass group, and then 5 of them actually show up, and there are 2 other people who hadn't signed up who are taking the place of people who are hung over or studying or whatever is going on.
Yeah, paper
So
waiver,
maybe
You
if
know, it just
everyone does paper waivers by
paper
default,
waivers.
that would be easier.
I've tried to get them to sign up and volunteer up on their phones when they're on site, and they sometimes get that done, and most often they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
So
think that we should probably have a folder on the sites with paper waivers, it's other things like that in it.
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
But
Well, good to let people know.
in there,
Is it labeled the safety binder, or is it's got the liability things and the other?
Yeah, it's the binder with everything. There's 2 binders on, well, sometimes 3. But the base is there's the site safety binder, or it's labeled site binder. And then there is the family selection logging hours there's only a few papers in there. And then sometimes there's a binder with the walled sketches. But the main site binder always has that. But if you're running low, let the construction coordinator know.
Good.
yeah, we have them.
Jess, thank you for spending all this time getting all of this set up here.
Yeah,
It
there's
it
a whole,
still it still feels foreign to me a little bit too, but I feel like it's going to become second nature once we start using it.
Seems like it's gone okay so far as far as getting people in. So,
I think once we're all used to it, it's going to be a good tool.
yeah, it certainly has a lot more the like admin side backend capabilities for staff are light years beyond what Volunteer App had to offer. So there were certainly some reasons to switch. But we appreciate you guys all taking the time to work with us on learning this new system. It's never that easy to switch, but I appreciate it.
And please speak up if you have questions or, suggestions for improvements.
Mhm.
Jess has gotten to know this pretty well, so she'd probably be able to say whether or not your suggestion is workable in the way the system works, or whether or not it's just a limitation.
Mhm. But yeah, feel free to reach out anytime if you have more questions. I'll send the recording of this out along with the written copy that I sent to everybody. So if you have questions beyond that, feel free to use. You can also use this. There's their little chat bot thing down here on everybody's screens. So if you have a question, you can it's actually decent at sometimes website chatbots are very bad at actually pulling reliable results, but theirs is okay. Um, and it does give you, if you click on it, the option to look at the admin help articles and training videos. So you can also just search their help side yourself if there's something that I'm not answering fast enough that you might want to see. But they just keep in mind, I guess, that their help articles are for sort of the full admin experience and not the somewhat limited admin experience. So there might be some things that you're like, I would love to be able to do that. Is that there? And then it's not, but you can always ask and we can review what the limited admin capabilities are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone.